Heartwarming bond discovered. Black waitress's daily kindness exposed by old man's 4 bodyguards. Mariah's smile lit up Charlie's diner, a cherished hub in their bustling urban neighborhood. Every morning at 10 a.m., she greeted the day with the energy of 1,000 suns, weaving through tables with grace and joy. But behind her cheerful demeanor, life was an uphill battle. At just 24, she worked tirelessly as a waitress, balancing the demands of her job with the responsibility of caring for her mother and younger siblings in their cramped apartment just blocks away. Each laugh from a customer felt like a lifeline, helping her evade the crushing weight of her reality. Among the frequent faces in the diner was Mr. Thompson, an elderly war veteran who always donned a well-worn bomber jacket. His presence added a sprinkle of nostalgia to the joint. Mariah, recognizing the weight on his shoulders, always took a moment to check on him. Their shared smiles felt like threads weaving an unbreakable bond. Mr. Thompson appreciated Mariah's kindness. She was a bright star, illuminating his foggy world filled with estrangement from his affluent family, a chasm formed by years of misunderstanding and societal views. One busy Friday morning, as the diner buzzed vividly with chatter, that lively atmosphere shifted. A boisterous group of young customers erupted in laughter, celebrating life over plates of pancakes. Suddenly, tension erupted as Mr. Thompson's 4 imposing bodyguards misinterpreted the joyful ruckus as a potential threat. Chairs scraped, and gasps rippled across the room. With her heart racing, Mariah felt a cascade of emotions. Fear flickered, but determination surged. She took a deep breath and called out, her voice rising above the din, bravely defending the spirited patrons. "It's just a celebration, boys. They're harmless." As silence blanketed the diner, Mariah's courage hung thick in the air. Mr. Thompson, captivated by her fearlessness, felt an unexpected warm swell in his chest. He had always admired her spirit, but today felt different. He saw not just a waitress, but a beacon of hope. A moment after the chaos, he stood up, shaky hands gripping the booth's edge with hesitation, caught between recognition and a fear of judgment. Would they accept him? The whispers of judgment mingled with his admiration, making him second-guess. What would the hard-working crowd think of a wealthy man stepping forward in their midst? Would his acknowledgment be seen as patronizing? Then he caught Mariah's gaze, a soft strength nestled in her eyes, assuring him. In that silent moment, the rest of the diner held its breath, waiting for him, a man wounded by life as circumstances, to shed his doubts. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the air thickened with tension, Mariah's hopeful smile piercing through the silence sparked a fire in Mr. Thompson. Would he take that leap? The community waited, hearts pounding, envisioning the bridge between society's fragments rising, just in that moment a chance to connect, to mend the unseen rifts. Hope hung delicately in the air as Mr. Thompson prepared to speak, his journey hanging by a thread of courage, the choice resting gently in his trembling hands. What would he reveal? Mr. Thompson felt the weight of his polished past clash with the rawness of the moment in Charlie's diner. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the collective breath of the crowd held him firmly, waiting. He opened his mouth, but the words felt lodged in his throat, heavy with years of regret. Finally, he managed to say, I'm sorry for any misunderstanding." The tremor in his voice revealed his vulnerability. He glanced at the young patrons, their eyes wide and sparkling with curiosity, and then back at Mariah, who stood in her apron like a lighthouse in a tumultuous sea. "I've spent too long hiding behind walls, it's time to step out." As he spoke, Mariah felt a jolt of pride. Mr. Thompson's admission resonated deeply with her. She understood the fight against the tides of expectation and silence. In this weary old man stood a kindred spirit. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady and warm, "for being here, for sharing this moment with us." Mr. Thompson took a step toward the diner's patrons, shifting his stiff posture. The bodyguards, previously a looming presence, relaxed slightly, caught off guard by the shift in energy. The laughter that once echoed through the diner crept back, but now it was mixed with soft murmurs of encouragement for the old man standing before them. The young group, who had inadvertently triggered the chaos, cheered, "Yeah! Welcome back, sir!" The warmth of their acceptance washed over him, and for the first time in years, Mr. Thompson felt a flicker of belonging. Beaming with newfound courage, he continued, "All of you have shown me that life is still vibrant, still full of joy, and that we need each other to realize this light." He took a deep breath and met each gaze around the diner, from the new young couple at the counter to the older man nursing his coffee in the corner. "We all have scars, stories, but we also have the power to share love and kindness." A wave of applause erupted, echoing off the diner's walls, the sound conscripting itself to the vibrations of hope and change. Mariah clapped too, her heart swelling as she realized that this wasn't just Mr. Thompson's moment. It was a collective awakening. As the din of cheers subsided, a new voice from the back of the diner broke through. "What's next?" It was a skeptical but curious man, leaning back against a red vinyl booth. "You can't just drop a revelation like that and expect everything to be sunshine and rainbows." The room turned toward him, faces tinged with uncertainty yet alive with anticipation. Mariah's heart raced again. She sensed a tension brewing, one that could lead to deeper conversation or potential fallout. She felt the need to guide this moment, to ground it in the hope that had been ignited. She stepped forward again. "Life isn't just sunshine. It's about embracing the storms, understanding our differences, and coming together as a community." She glanced at Mr. Thompson, who looked at her with appreciation. "Let us share more and learn more. Let us support each other and share our stories." The skeptical man raised an eyebrow, but there was a hint of intrigue in his eyes. "All right, let us hear some stories then." A ripple of agreement coursed through the diner, and an unexpected energy buzzed in the air. "What we need to know is," Mariah leaned closer, her voice carrying the weight of anticipation, "who among us is brave enough to go first?" Faces exchanged glances, customers uncrossed their arms, and the atmosphere shifted like the first drop of rain in a drought. In that moment, they were all in this together, waiting for someone to take a leap into vulnerability. What stories would emerge? Could they transform Charlie's diner into something greater than itself? As the silence settled, it was clear. Everyone held their breath, poised on the precipice of change. A pause enveloped Charlie's diner, thick enough to feel like the air itself held its breath. Mariah scanned the faces around her, each one a tapestry of emotion. The weight of expectation hung heavily, but the spark of courage flared in a quiet corner. Then, an elderly woman, her hair pure white and framed in a messy bun, raised her hand. "I'll go," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly, betraying the courage it took to speak up. It was Lillian, a diner regular known for her warm smile and kind words. The room seemed to sigh in relief, as if her willingness to share assuaged the uneasiness that had settled. With a trembling smile, Lillian stood up from her booth, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Years ago, I lost my husband. It was the hardest time of my life." She swallowed hard, and the flicker of tears threatened to spill. "But Mariah here, she gave me a reason to get out of bed each day. She always remembered my order, always asked how I was doing. It was just coffee and pie, but it felt like love. She made me feel seen. All eyes turned to Mariah, whose heart swelled with warmth. There was a deep gratitude exchanged in that moment, a silent understanding that went beyond words. Lillian looked at her with such appreciation, it was as though time had paused just for them. "I didn't realize," Mariah started, a lump rising in her throat, "that my little gestures meant so much." Lillian nodded, and the room seemed to draw in closer around them, attending to this shared moment. "It's the little things," she continued, "that often hold the most weight. Kindness doesn't always need applause. It thrives in small acts, a warm smile, a simple question." The skeptical man from earlier leaned forward, immersed in the sincerity of the exchange. This wasn't just about the diner. It was about life, its struggles, its joys, and the threads that connect us all. The clatter of plates and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee faded into the background as more voices began to emerge. A young man with bright blue hair spoke up. "I've been struggling to find my way since high school. I started working here to get by, but it's so much more than that. Every day, it feels like I'm part of a family. I've never really had one." This confession struck a chord, and heads nodded in response. The diner was becoming a sanctuary. Every piece of vulnerability shared added to a collective healing that seemed tangible, like steam rising from hot coffee. A woman in her 20s, her eyes shimmering with tears, added, "I moved here thinking I could make it on my own. I left everything behind. But when I walked into this diner, you all took me in. And now I'm not alone." Cheers of encouragement followed, punctuated by laughter and clapping. The atmosphere transformed into something electric. They were sharing not just stories, but pieces of their hearts. Each confession led to the next, weaving a patchwork of humanity that spanned across generations. Mariah felt her spirit lift, buoyed by the connections forming. This wasn't just a diner. It was a living embodiment of community. Suddenly, she realized that the scars they all carried were badges of strength, and together they could bear the weight of the world. As the stories tumbled over one another, filling the diner with rich emotion, Mariah paused. A new thought crept into her mind, fluttering with possibility. What if they took this energy beyond this moment? What if they turned this bond into a movement? "Why don't we do something together?" Mariah called out, the spark of inspiration stepping into the light. "Let us create a day to celebrate kindness, a way to honor the stories we've shared and invite others to share theirs." Excited chatter erupted. Ideas whirled around her, visions of potlucks, open mic nights, and community volunteer days floated through the air, each divine in its outpouring of love. But just as the excitement built to a crescendo, a voice from the back interrupted. "And what happens if it all falls apart?" The air thickened again, heavy with that looming doubt. Mariah's heart raced. How would they respond? This could be the turning point, or just another moment stifled by fear. But in that moment of uncertainty, could they dare to believe in something greater? Mariah felt the weight of the question hang in the air, a dark cloud threatening to overshadow the bright momentum they had created. The diner fell into an uneasy silence again as everyone looked around at one another, waiting for someone to break through the uncertainty. Lillian, who had shared so much already, stepped forward, her voice steady now despite the tremors it had once held. "What if we prepare for the worst?" "Yes," she started thoughtfully, the crowd leaning in. "But we do it together. We've already faced our fears by sharing our stories. If we stumble, we've got each other to lift us up." Her words were like a balm, soothing the fears coiling in Mariah's chest. She felt hope spring in small bursts throughout the diner, igniting the hearts of her companions. The young man with bright blue hair nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. What if we make mistakes? That's part of it too. We can learn and grow together. I've been doing it all my life without anyone to catch me this time. It'll be different." A ripple of agreement spread, and Mariah reveled in the glimpse of vulnerability she saw transforming into bravery. They weren't just a collection of strangers sharing sad anecdotes anymore. They were creating a nurturing nest, a place where connections could flourish without the fear of judgment. "Let us think how this can become more than just one day," another diner exclaimed, eyes wide with enthusiasm. "A weekly gathering? A day where we all come together to uplift someone else, to share stories we haven't yet told?" Mariah's heart pounded as ideas collided and merged in that cozy space, each suggestion echoing with possibility. Excited exclamations bounced from corner to corner, and she could see the glimmer of inspiration spreading across each face. "What about a kindness tree?" An elderly gentleman chimed in, his brow furrowing in concentration. "We could write down our little acts of kindness on leaves and hang them up. People from the community could come in, read them, and feel inspired to do the same." Electricity filled the diner. The earlier skepticism faded as voices piled on top of one another, throwing ideas into the air. They envisioned their togetherness materializing into a festival of love, heartwarming stories told, and bonds formed. But beneath the excitement, a shadow crept back in for Mariah. The voice of doubt had changed form, but still lurked, just as palpable as before. What if their dreams of connection fell short? What if they couldn't sustain the very energy they were creating? Lillian seemed to read her thoughts. "Isn't it worth it to try?" she asked, her gaze steady and patient. "Nothing worth having comes easily. The vulnerability it takes to stand up and be heard, that's what creates authentic connections." Mariah's heart swelled with determination. Yes, it would be daunting, and yes, they might stumble. But the laughter, tears, and love shared in that diner were testament enough that they could rise together, come what may. "Okay, let us do it," she announced, her voice filled with conviction. "Let us take the plunge and invite everyone in our community to join us. Let kindness blow like a windstorm through this town." Cheers erupted in the diner once more, a symphony of joy that drowned out any lingering fears. Each person there became more than just customers of Charlie's Diner. They became the founding members of something beautiful and resonant. As plans took shape, Mariah caught a flash of the skeptical man from earlier, eyes alight with newfound belief. But even as their excitement peaked, another voice from behind, a haunting whisper that seemed to slip through the cracks, caught her attention. "What if no one comes?" The shadow of doubt emerged again, threatening to choke the fresh air of enthusiasm they had just breathed into life. All at once, the clamor fell silent again. Mariah held her breath, feeling the weight of silence press down on the room. All those hopeful eyes that had sparkled just moments before now looked uncertain again, their excitement fading like a shadow at dusk. Lillian stepped up, an unyielding force against doubt. "We can't let fear dictate our path," she said firmly, a spark of defiance flickering in her gaze. "Do you remember why we're here? To connect, to share, to lift each other up. We won't know unless we try. Everyone begins somewhere." The young man with blue hair nodded fervently. "What she said. If it doesn't work, we learn. If it does work," his eyes shone, radiating enthusiasm. "Think of all the love we could create." Mariah felt her heart thud in sync with the rising energy in the room. Encouragement flowed from her fingertips to the others, drawing them in. She could feel their trepidation soften, melting away what doubt clung to the edges of their spirits. Okay, called out a teenager sitting at the counter, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Let us throw out a date. How about next Saturday?" Each component of the plan fell into place, like pieces of a puzzle, coming together neatly, transforming their initial fear into resolve. Cheers erupted once more, harmonizing with the clink of cutlery and the comforting rhythm of a diner-esque background hum. But as elation coursed through Mariah's veins, the nagging voice returned, whispering doubts in the back of her mind. "What if we write invitations? A call to action? Get the word out?" she suggested, her voice a mix of determination and a touch of anxiety. The laughter faded a little, replaced by contemplative murmurs. Lillian smiled, a knowing light in her eyes. Let us create a flyer. We can hand them out around town and post them online. We could even include a little story about why we're doing this. That will pull at their hearts. Mariah marveled at how this dynamic group of strangers had become a family, bound by shared experiences and dreams. They pored over every detail, vibrant colors for the flyers, heartfelt wording, and ideas for engaging the town. With each idea that sparked a conversation, the air filled with infectious inspiration, laughter mingling with determination. As a plan began to solidify, they decided to have a countdown to the event. Lillian suggested they could decorate a board in the diner. Chores were clustered into groups, everyone bubbling with energy and excitement. We need a name, the blue-haired man shouted suddenly. Something that embodies everything like the Kindness Collective. Love it. Someone else immediately chimed in, their voices rising above one another, suggesting variations. Each name drew a warm response, their bond strengthening with every shared giggle or cheer. Mariah glanced around, overwhelmed by how courage had transformed their hesitations into fervor. It was one thing to dive into the chaos of gathering ideas. It was another to witness the unity camaraderie could evoke. Yet, as the energy drifted into brainstorming, a tiny voice echoed back to her. What if the kindness they sought to cultivate was a facade? What if they were jumping into something that could tear them apart instead? She shook her head, forcing a smile that felt heavy on her lips. Let us make it a celebration, Lillian said, bringing her back into the present with infectious enthusiasm. Let us show our town just how beautiful connection can be. A positive cheer filled the diner once again, the undertone of doubt dissipating like mist before the sun. As they wrapped up for the evening, Mariah looked at the ocean of hopeful faces around her. She dared to dream that, maybe, just maybe, they were building something that could genuinely change lives. You know what? She finally said, her heart racing with a mix of hope and suspense. I believe we can do this. But as their excitement surged once more, she couldn't shake the feeling inside her gut, an inkling that there was still something lurking beneath something yet to reveal itself. What if, when the day finally arrived, they were met with silence? Would the kindness they intended fall flat? The following week felt like both a year and a heartbeat. The diner buzzed with anxious energy, the walls alive with the chatter of eager faces planning for the upcoming event. Mariah spent her days counting down to Saturday, each dawn infused with exhilaration tempered by a shadow of unease. Flashing smiles and heartfelt conversations filled the air as she and her newfound family distributed flyers around town. From coffee shops to community boards, they plastered the Kindness Collective name everywhere they could. Mariah noticed how the little things turned into great joys, sharing a laugh over small victories, admiring multicolored paper that danced in the wind as they hung decorations, or even the way the sun illuminated the smiles around her. But the closer they got to the day, the more Mariah felt the weight of her worries. What if no one showed up? The thought curled like a vine around her heart, squeezing with a tightness that made her breathe shallow. Lillian drifted her way one afternoon. You've been quiet. Everything okay? Yeah, I don't know. What if we don't have the impact we hoped for? Mariah confessed, her voice a whisper as if echoing her worries. What if we're doing this all for nothing? Lillian, unfazed, locked her gaze on Mariah. We started this together, remember? It's not about the size of the turnout. It's about the hearts we touch along the way. Whether it's one person or 100, we'll make a difference. Her words wrapped like a warm blanket around Mariah's spirit. The days passed in a whirlwind of preparations alongside her new friends, each moment infusing her with hope for the change they could create. Friday night brought everyone back to the diner to set up for the event. The atmosphere buzzed with an electric charge, anticipation sparking everywhere. They strung lights and hung the flyers across the walls, brightening the space with color and warmth. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting hues of orange onto the diner's facade, Mariah closed her eyes for a moment, settling into the beauty of the evening. Yet deep within her, the haunting voice whispered still. What if they were doomed to disappointment? Hey! The blue-haired man's cheerful shout pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. Check this out. He twirled a flyer like a baton, perhaps a little too exuberantly, and they all erupted in laughter. Just before they finished their final touches, an elderly man shuffled into the diner with a group of 4 towering bodyguards. The air shifted. People exchanged curious glances. The man's features, rugged yet kind, caught Mariah's attention as he momentarily paused to read the decorations. His bodyguards seemed cautious, scanning the space as if ready to protect him from unforeseen dangers, but there was a twinkle in the old man's eye. The diner fell silent, eyes drawn to the unexpected visitors. Lillian stepped forward, her open arms welcoming. Welcome. We're gearing up for an event tomorrow. Please come join us. I might be too old for the party, the man chuckled, his voice rich and warm. But I'd love to hear what you all are doing. His words flooded the room, and Mariah felt a rush of warmth as people began gathering around. It was as if the energy in the diner surged, brimming with possibilities. As conversations unfolded and smiles were exchanged, Mariah caught a glimpse of something bigger than what she had imagined. This wasn't just about numbers, it was about connection. Each laugh and story shared seemed to weave a thread of unity among them. Later, while cleaning up, Mariah dared to dream again, hoping to see not just their little community, but perhaps even the town coming together. But as she glanced back at the elderly man telling stories of kindness, his bodyguards still looming, she wondered, could a simple act of kindness truly bridge the gaps between strangers? And what greater understanding might emerge when they opened the door to their own vulnerabilities? Tomorrow would bring it all to the surface. Would they find the answers they sought, or would new challenges emerge that would test their resolve in ways they couldn't foresee? As Saturday dawned, the first rays of sunlight spilled into the diner, casting a warm glow on the preparations that unfolded like a well-rehearsed dance. The scent of fresh brewed coffee mingled with the sweet tang of pastries laid out on tables draped in vibrant fabrics. Mariah's heart raced with anticipation, each beat echoing the laughter and energy she felt from her friends. With everyone bustling about, it was hard to ignore the nervous butterflies fluttering in Mariah's stomach. She adjusted her apron and took a deep breath, reminding herself of Lillian's words. As she glanced around, she caught sight of the blue-haired man playfully juggling salt shakers, while the others stood nearby laughing. That laughter was infectious, and it lightened her heart just a bit. "They're almost here," Lillian shouted, her excitement turning her voice into an exhilarating melody. "We're one step away from kicking this off." Mariah wiped her sweaty palms on her jeans, heart pounding. What if it's not what we hoped for? What if nobody shows up? "Let them come," Lillian replied, her eyes bright. "This is about us, about building a community. It's about the moments we create together." The passion in her voice seemed to ignite something within Mariah, causing her apprehension to shift just a little. As the clock ticked toward the hour, the diner filled with an eclectic mix of townsfolk, families, teens, the elderly man with the bodyguards, and even those she hadn't seen for years. Mariah's heart swelled. She moved among them, greeting everyone with warmth, their familiar faces radiating shared histories and stories waiting to be told. The moment officially arrived. Lillian stepped up to the mic, her expression a blend of nerves and excitement. "Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Kindness Collective. Today is about more than just giving. It's about connection, sharing, and hope." Her words hung in the air, alive and pulsating. As people clapped and cheered, Mariah spotted the elderly man standing at the back. He nodded approvingly, and his bodyguards shifted, their usual sternness easing into curiosity. The day rolled on, and with each activity games, food sharing, and the exchange of kind notes, the diner transformed into a microcosm of love and laughter. Children chased one another, their giggles echoing like musical notes. Old friends reignited connections, while newcomers found a welcome breath of acceptance. But as the sun began to set, casting an orange sheen over the event, Mariah's heart sank momentarily. Could they keep this energy alive? What if the kindness they shared today faded like the twilight? Just then, the elderly man approached her. "You created quite the gathering here," he said, his smile warm and genuine. "But tell me, do you believe in the power of kindness yourself?" Mariah looked into his wise, knowing eyes, and felt a stirring deep within her. How had she not seen it before? "I want to believe it can change things. I guess I'm just scared sometimes, scared that it won't be enough." A soft chuckle escaped him. Kindness doesn't always move mountains. Sometimes it just opens doors, or hearts. His words settled into her, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. She began to understand that each action mattered, every smile counted. The diner buzzed around them, yet their moment felt intimate and profound. And just as she was about to respond, a loud commotion erupted nearby. The laughter turned to gasps as a group of towering youths entered, eyes scanning the crowd, their energy electric and unpredictable. Mariah's heart raced. Who were these newcomers, and what did they want? As tension heightened, she stared into the kaleidoscope of faces around her. This was no longer just an event. It would be a crucible for kindness and courage. And she could not turn away from what was about to unfold. Would the light of their actions shine brightly enough to fend off the darkness that threatened? Would they stand united, facing whatever came their way? The teenager at the forefront of the newcomers wore a grin that sent chills up Mariah's spine. His eyes darted around the room, leaving trails of unease in their wake. The laughter and chatter dimmed, replaced by an anxious energy, thick enough to taste. Mariah felt herself sway, not from fear, but from the realization of the challenge unfolding before her. "Hey!" the youth called out, voice booming against the diner's cheerful ambience. "What is going on here? A little gathering for kindness?" He let out a laugh that was rich with irony. Mariah's stomach twisted as the other teens behind him shared glances, exchanging nods that sent a wave of uncertainty through the crowd. They seemed to revel in their role as disruptors, a break from the warmth the community had enveloped itself in. Lillian stepped forward, jaw clenched but voice steady. "We're trying to spread kindness and connection, something this town needs. What do you want?" For a moment, the youth hesitated before he burst out with feigned surprise. "Wow, a whole day to practice being nice? I mean, that's real cute," but he pointed to the table filled with notes of kindness and baked goods. "Who really needs this?" Mariah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. The laughter from earlier faded into whispers of concern. She looked at the elderly man. He met her gaze, encouraging her quietly without words. "It's not about the food or the notes." Mariah finally found her voice, loud enough to cut through the tension. "It's about people, about bringing everyone together. We're all part of this community." The boy scoffed, but she saw a flicker of curiosity dance in his eyes. It was like a small crack in his armor, and she wanted to widen it. Stepping closer, she spoke earnestly. "What if this could be something more for you? You might leave here feeling like a part of something. Isn't that worth exploring?" A ripple of murmurs floated through the crowd. Some townsfolk nodded in agreement, others shifted uncertainly, but Mariah stood firm. The moment hung in the air, heavy yet charged, vulnerable yet hopeful. To her surprise, the youth did not lash out further. Instead, he crossed his arms defiantly, but seemed to consider her words. It was a small victory, yet powerful. Another voice joined the fray from the back, one of the older men who had come early, his weathered face showing both concern and determination. "You young folks might think kindness is weak, but it's the strongest thing we have. It can change lives." With that, murmurs transformed into applause. Momentum shifted, and one by one, people began to shout supportive messages about kindness and the strength of community. The tension in the room evolved, lifting from anxiety into a mix of hope and power. Suddenly, the blue-haired man from earlier broke through the crowd with a plate loaded with cookies. He grinned widely, a broad gesture of peace amid the uncertainty. "Hey, want to see who can stack the cookies the highest? Winner gets bragging rights." A hesitant laughter emerged as even the youth could not suppress a chuckle. Mariah took a step back, feeling a weight lift. Maybe this was what Lillian meant. This was about connection, about shared experiences more than anything tangible. Just as laughter returned, the youth's expression shifted again, this time lingering on Mariah with a hint of something softer. But before she could read it fully, the voices at the entrance threatened to crescendo once more. Two people stepped forward, authority swirling from their crisp suits, a couple of the town's most influential figures. "What is going on here?" one demanded, clearly bewildered by the scene. "It's not just a gathering anymore, it's a battleground for hearts." Would the kindness shared today be enough to steer the narrative away from disruption, or was there more testing ahead? Would Mariah find the strength to bridge the gap for everyone involved, including herself? Mariah felt the air shift as the townspeople's excitement faded, replaced with apprehensive whispers. The two influential figures stood with their arms crossed, eyebrows raised, scrutiny etched across their faces. They were used to control and power, but today felt different. Today was about connection, a concept they seemed unfamiliar with. "Excuse me?" the taller of the two repeated, clearly unimpressed with the scattered crowd. "What is happening here? This isn't a party." The laughter from earlier vanished, leaving silence that buzzed with uncertainty. Mariah's heart raced. The divide this moment could create was palpable. She didn't want to lose the tentative progress made today. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, summoning every ounce of courage and conviction she had. "We're having a gathering to promote kindness and community spirit," she declared, voice clear and steady. It was meant to bring people together, to share goodwill. The older of the two exchanged a glance with the younger one, the subtle skepticism in their stance unchanging. Mariah could feel her pulse in her ears. She sensed she was inching into territory laden with risks, yet deep down, she knew they needed to hear her words. "Why do you feel the need for this?" the younger man challenged, tilting his head slightly, as if trying to provoke her into revealing some hidden weakness. "Don't you think your time could be better spent?" She noticed the youth watching closely now, the corners of his mouth barely twitching, as if he were trying to decide where his allegiance lay. Her heartbeat quickened. Was he still on the fence about all this, or was there something deeper at play? "For many of us," Mariah replied, aiming her words at both the officials and the boy, "kindness isn't just a nice gesture. It's a necessity. This diner, with its smiling faces and shared stories, this is what makes our town feel like a home." The crowd seemed to rally behind her, a subtle but strong energy building. Heads nodded, murmurs of support arose. It was revealing how powerful their collective voice could be. She just hoped the weight of it would reach those in control. The older man, shifting his stance but still remaining skeptical, finally spoke. "And what if your little experiment fails? What will your community do then? What about it?" Mariah took a step closer, searching the eyes of everyone in the room, finding strength in their gazes. "Then we'll keep trying. That's what communities do. We support each other through wins and through failures." A stir of emotion sparked among the diners. A tide of inspiration swept through the scene. With unexpected clarity, the blue-haired man chimed in. You know it's true. We aren't perfect, but we got each other. Just look around. He raised his plate of cookies high and flashed a smile. Let us not let some old rules hold us back from what could be. The tension slowly lightened, the once dominating presence of authority starting to waver. Mariah glanced at the youth, who appeared fascinated, his bravado slipping away as he took in the unexpected unity building around him. The officials exchanged a glance, the power they wielded curbed considerably by the undeniable force of community spirit in that moment. Very well, the older man relented, but we'll be watching. A wave of applause erupted, echoing through the small diner, lifting Mariah's spirits. Yet beneath the celebration, she felt a knot in her stomach. Was this a temporary truce? Had they truly turned the tide, or was the storm merely gathering strength, waiting for the right moment to strike? Just then, an elderly woman with a knowing smile leaned towards Mariah. Sometimes the battles aren't just fought on the outside, child. The toughest ones are within. What could she mean by that? Mariah felt the heaviness of uncertainty creep back in, pressing down on her even as the room filled with laughter and hope. Would Mariah come to understand her own internal conflicts as the heart of the challenge? And was unity truly enough to make a difference, or would deeper struggles arise that tested the bonds they had just begun to form? The warmth of Saturday's late afternoon wrapped around Charlie's diner like a beloved blanket, but beneath that cozy exterior, unease still lingered. The enthusiastic chatter buzzed with the thrill of connection, a miracle sprung from vulnerability, but as Mariah and the other diners celebrated their small victories, a heavy question loomed in the back of her mind. Could they truly sustain this spirit of camaraderie against the everyday challenges that awaited them? As laughter filled the air, Mariah caught sight of Mr. Thompson, the elderly war veteran whose vulnerability had inspired so many moments. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his faint smile hinting at a story still unspoken. Mustering the courage built from sharing their challenges, she approached him. "Thank you for believing in us, for being here," she said, squeezing his hand gently. He nodded, a flicker of pride lighting up his wise eyes. "You are doing more than you know, Mariah. You're planting seeds of hope in a world so often starved for it." A wave of gratitude washed over her. It was those tiny moments, the ones that felt almost inconsequential, that built the foundation of strength in times of doubt. Mariah joined her friends near the center of the diner, where they had hung a kindness tree, paper leaves fluttering gently as people pinned up their soft recollections of kind acts shared. As more patrons contributed, stories of generational ties, laughter born from resilience, and kindness exchanged wove all present into a tapestry of unity, a heart-rending reminder that everyone had a story that deserved to be told. But just as excitement swelled in anticipation, the door burst open again. The same group of towering youths reappeared, flanked by their imposing figures. Murmurs of worry rippled through the crowd. Mariah could almost feel everyone holding their breath, readying to brace for impact. "Hey!" the initial youth shouted again, the mockery evident in his voice. "What do you think you're doing? You think this little kindness carnival makes a difference?" As gasps filled the air, Mariah stepped forward once more, her heart pounding. "We believe kindness can change lives. It has for many of us, giving us purpose and connection." "What? By baking cookies?" he scoffed, clearly interested in causing a stir. "By bringing people together, yes," Mariah insisted, bolstered by the support of her friends, who stood resolutely behind her. "Kindness is not about grand gestures. It's about the small moments that build community. It's like pushing a stone. At first it's hard, but with enough energy and support, it can roll a hill." The youth shifted uncomfortably, the initial bravado faltering. It was clear he hadn't expected such a passionate response, and for the first time, curiosity crept into his features. "Look at how many people are here," she continued, gesturing to the familiar faces of the diner. "People you see every day. We're not just a gathering, we're a family. And that means protecting one another." Suddenly, one of the older men from the diner stepped forward. "You might not see it now, but you could be part of this too. Everyone needs connection. Whether you realize it or not, you matter." That sentiment hung in the air, pulsing with an undeniable truth, and to Mariah's surprise, a hint of disagreement seeped into the groups. The elderly man who had always held back began to wire courage as tension filled the space. Many nodded in agreement with her, their spirits strengthened by having the courage to speak out. The towering youth finally glanced at the table, a collection of well wishes, notes filled with love and stories of perseverance. Something about it seemingly intrigued him, causing his steely facade to wobble for just a moment. Perhaps he saw a flicker of something he craved: belonging. "To be honest," he muttered quietly, "I just thought this would be weak. But I didn't expect folks to come together like this." "You really believe all this could change things?" "Yes," Mariah affirmed, her eyes steady as hope illuminated them. "If everyone plays a part, we can build something stronger. Together we can mean something." The diners began to cheer, clapping in encouragement for the young man standing at the threshold of change, pushing against the barriers that whispered defeat. "Let us just say," he said, a trace of vulnerability emerging, "maybe we need something like this too." One of his friends beside him, typically skeptical, added, "I always just wanted to fit in somewhere, never felt like I belonged." A realization swept through the group. The truth shone clear: these youths weren't so different. They were searching for connection just like those who stood before them. "Why don't you join us then?" Mariah offered, her voice inviting. "Let us see what we can create together." Something shifted within the room, a palpable shift of understanding, shimmering like sunlight dancing on water. The youth studied Mariah and the surrounding crowd, weighing the warmth of acceptance against the chill of intimidation. An ancient wall broke down, and the atmosphere began to swell with possibility. As if on cue, the youth stepped inside the diner, a new energy crackling in the air. The crowd erupted, not just in applause but in laughter. Together, they shared stories of their struggles, their hopes, and dreams of connection. Each voice was a piece of the puzzle, and together they formed a picture of resilience, a living testament of humanity learning to embrace its flaws and find strength in unity. Mariah smiled, feeling her heart sore yet tethered by a thread of doubt. Could this bond they forged withstand the storms ahead? Just as she discerned the promising glimmer of connection, Lillian squeezed Mariah's hand tightly, her eyes dancing with renewed joy. "Remember, dear, kindness continues no matter the trials that come. It grows, strengthens, and multiplies. It will be our compass through whatever lies ahead." It was the truth Mariah needed to hear. They had already ignited a spark, and now it was a fire one buoyed by the warmth of shared stories that could conquer the world if only they let it. As the laughter rang through the diner, and the stories grew woven together in a symphony of life, one heartfelt encounter after another, Mariah felt tears of joy welling in her eyes. She was part of something greater than herself, a community born from struggles, laughter, kindness, and sharing. And then, as if the world had conspired to show her the fullness of hope, she gazed at Mr. Thompson, who stood taller among the crowd, embodying the resilience of the spirit they all shared. Their transformation was not just personal. It was collective, finding and nurturing each other amid the messiness of life. In this moment, the journey sparked not by just one heart, but by many, and yet still only beginning. Mariah realized they were free to embrace whatever awaited them. Each moment shared was a stepping stone toward building bridges, not walls. Together, they could create a story worth sharing, not just in the diner, but rippling outward, touching lives far beyond their cozy community. As the sun set on Charlie's diner, the silhouettes of determined individuals danced against the fading light. Each one held the power of change and inspiration for the world to witness. And in that moment, Mariah knew deep down love and kindness, once committed to action, could never truly dim. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to make sure you don't miss any exclusive stories that will fuel your heart. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this transformative content. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Comment your thoughts and reactions about the ending. Let us keep uplifting each other.